know why we keep failing. I've built a new kind of car, the fastest in the world.
Maybe you should build a new kind of driver.
A new kind of driver.
While rewatching this scene in Hot Wheels World Race, it intrigued me because I had actually done this type of physics and was interested to see what speed Tezla actually needed for the loop and to see if he actually did need a new type of driver to win the realm. So I set out to prove Tezla right or Tezla wrong by figuring out the speed that was needed for the loop. Now first of all, we need to talk about centripetal force. So you have a car, oh my gosh, that is a horrible loop, but we have a loop. And then we have a car around here. Centripetal force allows the car to complete a loop by pulling the car towards the center, which allows the loop to be complete, since it's always being sent to the center of the loop, even though the car is technically more... If you really think about it, the car is moving horizontally, always. And then you have centripetal force, which is constantly pulling it towards the center, which makes the circle curve, which makes the circle path, if you really think about it. So, Fc is equal to mv squared over r. Now for this purpose, for the purposes of this calculation, we have to take two positions of the car into account. First of all, we have to take the position of the car at the top and the position of the car at the bottom. Now, t, it's going to be for the position at the top, so we're going to be doing mvt, which means m is equal to mass, Vt is equal to velocity at the top of the loop, and r is equal to the radius of the loop. So it's basically that. Now, this mv squared is actually equal to mg, because the only force pulling this car down at the top of the loop is gravity. So simplifying this thing out, it's v equals r rooted gr, so it's actually velocity at the top here. Now, since the car is still moving and there's been a change in height, the car at the top has kinetic energy and potential energy. So, potential energy at the top and kinetic energy at the top. Now, we're going to do something like big brain here. We're going to substitute this into both equations so we can simplify both equations. We have to add these two together, potential energy and kinetic energy, because the car has both at the top of the loop. So, potential energy is mgh, and kinetic energy is half mvt. Okay, t is not the variable, it's just for translating that it's at the top. mvt squared. Now, since height is basically just double the radius, since there's been a change in the position of double the radius of the circle, we can basically go mg to mgr, because it's 2 times the radius. And now we can substitute Vt into this formula, which basically equals, let me think this out, half mgr. And now we can add both of them, since both of these variables are the same. We can add both of them, and that basically equals total energy at the top is basically equal to 5 over 2 mgr. So basically that's total amount of energy needed at the top to complete the loop. But now we need it for the bottom. So you know how this thing called the conservation of energy can only be transformed, not created nor destroyed. So since that's a thing, basically the energy at the bottom is equal to energy at the top. So basically you have kinetic energy at the bottom is equal to total energy at the top, because conservation of energy, and basically the kinetic energy from here is transferred to some of the potential energy up here, which makes sense because conservation of energy is a thing. So basically we have to substitute this formula, we have to basically oh my gosh, we basically have this m squared b we're using b here because it's a different variable and it's at the bottom. So simplifying this out, since kinetic energy at the bottom equals kinetic energy at but total energy at the top, actually it's actually half mv squared b is equivalent to 5/2 mgr. And now we can simplify this out, where it's basically velocity to the bottom equals rooted 5gr. Don't ask me about the change of location, I mess up the calculations, so I have to redo this video, but going on from this formula, by figuring out the distance travelled by Tesla, we can figure out the distance he travelled and therefore the radius, which is crucial for this formula. Now looking at the clip, the time taken was 7.13 seconds, and he was going at the start, his initial velocity was 224 miles per hour, which translates to 100 meters per second. So we have, to figure out his acceleration, we have this formula, v minus u over t. Now his final velocity is 0 because he stopped in the middle of the loop and it was basically at 0 velocity, and this was his path. Now since 0 and 0 and we have to do meters per second, we just do that, acceleration equals that, and his acceleration equals minus, I forgot what it was, minus 14 meters to the minus 2, and that's the acceleration. Next we have this formula to figure out the distance that he travelled, which is s equals ut minus half at squared. Now the problem here is that this is minus, so this will become a plus, so we don't have to actually change anything. So putting these variables in, we actually get 1068 meters. Now, because Tesla's path was half the circumference of the circle, we can basically do this formula. 2 pi r equals circumference. And since the distance he travelled was half that, we can just go like this. Pi r equals c, and since we have c, which is the distance here, we can just go r equals c over pi. Now that we figure out the radius, we can just plug it into the other formula. So the result, the velocity needed at the the velocity needed at the bottom was actually 129 meters per second, which translates to 288 miles per hour, and the velocity needed at the top was 57 meters per second, which translates to 127 miles per hour. So because of my miscalculation, I was saying Tesla was wrong, but now that I recalculated, Tesla was actually right in creating a new driver, and it makes sense because Vert, you know how Vert had to do that weird ass path where he gained more speed. That actually works, and that confirms the theory that Tesla needed new drivers and faster cars. Anyway, thanks for watching.